So there aren't many feelings that come close to the feeling of waking up on a frosty November morning and like the weather's like so chilly and so cold, and you come onto the train and you come onto the boiling hot central line because there's so many people on there and it's so cramped and everyone's kind of like squished together, but it's nice because it counteracts the cold from inside, you know. Anyway, I came into the gym. And one very nice thing about the gym, when I opened the doors, I was like, okay, this is new. Basically, they have new machines, but the machines are like very, very fancy. And I got a little bit excited about it. I've been coming Q-Motion for like the amount of time I've been coming uni. And they always have these like older ones. The wires on it have been worn. And sometimes there's a sign that says, oh, sorry for your inconvenience, but it's out of order. And yeah, they got like some new fancy ones. And they're really fancy as well. They're like Nuffield Health tier quality cables, which is very cool. I thought it was very cool. Workout, and then I headed into Ground Cafe, whereby I got a coffee, and after I done my writing, I went into doing a single study session on space-time and gravity. I felt very productive this morning because I was able to get that study session out the way and I didn't like delay it, and I done it. And then when I done one study session, it was like it gave me a little bit of a booster, if you like. It made me more motivated to do the other two, if that makes sense. Like 3 of them, when you haven't done all of them and it's already like 12 o'clock, it's bad. But I think by about 11:30 I had completed the first one, which was really good. So yeah, I felt really positive about that. I went outside to take a little bit of a break and get a bit of sunlight, and also because Ground Cafe got a little bit busy, and I saw Arian. I was only meant to talk for him for about 10 minutes, but I spoke to him for about 25 minutes.
What's the matter? You got nothing left inside, huh?
Went into the library to do the other two study sessions. I spent them doing quantum mechanics, so just going over my quantum mechanics notes. So the point I was trying to make before I got sidetracked was that I'm a bit behind some of my lectures, so it felt good to really kind of like, good to dip my toes in the water, if that makes sense. You know, like when you haven't touched it and then like you just feel like you're so behind and it could be anything and anything. But when you like dip your toes in a bit of water, you actually see how much you got, and you kind of go over and you're like, oh wait, I do remember how to do this. You know, like you feel better. And the knowable danger is better than the unknowable danger, because the unknowable danger can be anything and everything. Now, after I went into the library, after some time, I went into the physics museum to warm up my food, and then I went to Canal Side to go and eat that food. Now, the title of this video is called Mentally Stable. The reason why it is because I felt a lot better today. Because if you watched the last video, you know that like, okay, I got a new frame of understanding now. I understand things a little bit different and I can apply that to it. And when I have a bad thought, I don't just criticize the bad thought, I come up with a different thought to explain it now. And one that I actually believe as well, like I'm not just making it. And what I'm trying to say is like, there was this one scenario today where I had a really, really good interaction with someone. But it was like me and someone in this like, it was in an area where basically like, you could easily be trapped in by the other person, if that makes sense.
I know what kind of man you are.
And normally, if I were to have that conversation, I would normally be very wary at the fact that I might be preventing that other person from going, if that makes sense. So previously, like I would have like moved out of the way, and you know, obviously these things you do to like make people feel comfortable, but I would like take it to the like very, very serious extreme, if that makes sense. Like obviously you want the other person to feel comfortable. But what I'm just saying, like I just had a good interaction. It just flowed so nicely because whenever I get that thinking now, I'm like, okay, no, I understand why I think like that, and I understand where that thinking comes from, and I know that thinking, I can take away the credence I give to that thinking, if that makes sense. So there was a lot of things like that today when like I wasn't really like worried about like, you know, things like that. I wasn't worried. I wasn't anticipating every single thing that could go wrong. I still thought of it, don't get me wrong, because, you know, old habits die hard, but it doesn't affect me as much. You know, I actually had one awkward interaction today, but it was just an awkward interaction. Do you get me? I didn't like overthink it and then blow it out of proportion and then like it haunted me for like the next 2 hours. Like it was just an awkward interaction. I made my way into my lecture at 3 to 5. I do have a lecture today. Mechanics, I was actually saying to myself like, oh, you know, I feel like really productive. I felt really accomplished today, like productivity wise and also just like mentally wise. I should probably go like buy myself like a KHF after like quantum, but then I was like, I don't have money for that. So, you know, got to brave the storm without any promise of food afterwards, which is okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. Anyway, quantum mechanics lecture. It was really like, this lecture was really good because like I had gone over a little bit beforehand, so it wasn't like I was coming into the lecture and thinking I'm not going to be able to understand it. I was able to kind of like follow through with. I was sitting next to Vidishan and I was on my phone. Anyway, look, I was on my phone and something really funny came up and I showed it to Vidishan and Vidishan started laughing, and that's a recipe for disaster. It's one thing if I find it funny, that's bad enough, but if I show it to someone else and they can't control myself, I'm gonna find it more funny that someone else found it funny. So yeah, we was just there in the very front row of the classroom. And you know, like if we laugh, the lecturer is gonna see it. And I was just trying to like control myself. And Vidishan was like, he couldn't control himself either. And he was like to me, oh bro, stop, it's not even that funny. But then 2 seconds later, he just starts laughing as well. So yeah, it was really funny. It was the type of laughter that like, you can't breathe. Like you feel like someone like punched you in the stomach. Like it was nice. It was nice to have a laugh like that. Sorry, there was also another thing. It wasn't just like the overthinking, like with regards to interactions. It was also like, you know, like when I was walking with Ariane, I was joking around with Vidishan. Like whenever I do that, and whenever I'm like with like a friend, and like I'll laugh a little louder, and like I'll be a bit eccentric. Obviously, there is an extreme, but like just a little bit, just normal amounts. Like today, I was just normal amounts, like with the joke and stuff, and like I'll be a little bit more out there, if you like I always feel that like people are kind of like angry at me, if that makes sense. Like it feels weird whenever, like when I was with Ariane, I was like just like making jokes, like laughing out loud, literally. Like I just feel that like sometimes like certain people are like just very angry and upset with me, and I did feel that like today. That's what I was talking about, like old habits die hard. Like you still get that, but at least now I can kind of like, because I understand things, I understand where that thinking comes from. But I think certain things, but then I understand where these thoughts come from. So it's almost like these thoughts then don't have to be me, if that makes sense. It just feels like this big burden's been relieved of me, which is really good. Yeah, like it's just like say for example, when I was with Vidishan and I showed him the thing on Instagram, like I was just thinking, like in my mind, I was just thinking like, oh, you showed him the thing on Instagram. Now you're laughing. Now you're like disturbing the class. Now you're like annoying the professor. Now the professor's angry with you. Now Vidishan's angry with you. And now the whole class is angry at you. And obviously that was just one specific example, but it applies to like a lot of other things as well. And like, I didn't really do anything that bad. Do you get me? Like I didn't like disrupt the class. Like I was giggling a little bit, but it wasn't anything like out the blue. And do you get me? And like normally and even now, like a little bit, like I feel like a bad person. If that, like, I'm just using this as an example because it's a nice one to explain without it getting weird, because some scenarios are quite weird. Like it's nice because, you get me? And then like for the rest of that 45 minutes, it will just be like in a state of like constant shame and embarrassment. Like, I don't know, maybe that sounds weird, but the point I'm trying to say is now I get those things, now I feel those ways, but then I can kind of like understand it and be like, okay, no, this isn't actually true, which is nice because then I don't have to feel like that. And then if I don't feel like that, I don't have to have my behavior, I don't have to modify my behavior to combat that feeling and numb that feeling, which is just such a good thing. Which is just such a good thing, if that kind of makes sense. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm gonna go home now because I have not eaten. Bye.